Hello. I think we'll get going. It's 2 minutes past, and I've been told to be prompt, so I will follow orders. Thanks for coming. My name is Bruno. I am an associate editor at Project Syndicate, the global op-ed syndication service based here in the Czech Republic in Prague. It's a pleasure to be here. I have certain expertise on a very different subject, subject of Tibet and China, so that's what I usually talk about. It's nice to have a break from that topic for a day. So just quickly on the format, we have two speakers today. One of our speakers is unfortunately unable to make it. So we're lucky to be joined by Elsayed Darwish from the United Arab Emirates and Vladimir Bratek coming from the United States. So each speaker will, I'll do a quick introduction, kind of what the topic of the conversation is about. I'll then invite each speaker to present their research and their findings. I will ask a question to try to kind of spur a bit more on the research, then turn it into a panel conversation, and then open it up to the floor. So if that's acceptable. A request that you silence your phones if you haven't already done so, and I will check. Done. I would not dare to suggest that you turn them off. That's really bad form, I think, today, as a panel chair. So we're here to explore the theme of digital storytelling's impact on society. Now, as an editor, I think the title of this panel is appropriate, but perhaps not for the reasons you might assume. I work with a colleague at Project Syndicate who likes to point out that impact is a pseudo-sophisticated word with many literal or implied meanings, such as effects, consequences, results, and even collision. In other words, something's impact can be interpreted in many different ways, and so can digital storytelling. So the digital landscape that we're here to discuss is transforming at remarkable speeds, as we all know. Vladimir is apparently an expert on AI, so we'll ask him to pull some of that experience out. But everything from AR to VR to AI to big data is changing the way we consume information and news. Just to give you an idea of the speed, back in 2011, when I was in New York, I worked for the Council on Foreign Relations as a writer, and one of our projects was to develop an online interactive tool about the crisis, quote unquote, in Pakistan, the challenges that Pakistan faces. And this was an interactive graphic and map and video. In 2011, I said, nominated for an Emmy Award for digital news production. Yesterday, I couldn't even access it. The platform doesn't work anymore. So I like to think it's because the speed of technology is changing so fast, but it might actually be that I'm getting old. And that's a very long time in the ecosystem of news. But it is incredibly fast. So today we like to think about digital storytelling in terms of sophisticated experience stories. You know, the New York Times with their AV app during the Winter Olympics, so that you could go into a performance of a figure skater was amazing. The online journalism awards this year, the Financial Times won for literally allowing users to be an Uber driver, which is really pretty cool. But it raises a whole bunch of questions about what storytelling's role in the news business is, or the objectives. How are these new forms of storytelling affecting consumers, societies, and economies? What are the consequences when journalists do not have the resources to keep up technically? And that's something that Elsayed will talk about in the Arab world. And what happens when the boundaries are being pushed by digital storytelling in ways that aren't necessarily technical, but rather social and political? And I think that's where we will hear from Vladimir. So those are some of the issues to think about while we're listening to our speakers. So who are they? Vladimir Bratek is chair of the Department of Communications at Hollis University in the United States, where he joins us from today. But you spent some time in the Czech Republic, I understand, and his Czech is much better than mine. I won't even pretend. Dobrý den. I asked my wife how to say welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I've already forgotten. So And Elsayed Darwish is journalism and media professor at Zayed University in the United Arab Emirates, where we will have a nice conversation because I used to live in Abu Dhabi and work for a newspaper in Abu Dhabi. So.
I hope my topic, it will be totally different. Totally different, totally different. So it's about mobile journalism. I will talk about the potentials and the challenges which mobile journalism are facing. I'm talking about the Arab world, but in the end, it's not about the Arab world, it's about everywhere. I think it's about everywhere. I will start with just mentioning some feature of mobile journalism. Now, I think then I will talk about the challenges. I hope you will agree with me that there is something wrong with the mobile journalism. They are doing a lot of changes, like the computer did 20 years ago. They are making journalism different than before. They are allowing the journalists to report live news and live story. They are offering new ways of news gathering and distributing the information in different ways: text, audio, video, sound, with different combinations. Really, they are doing a lot of changes in journalism world. They are allowing journalists and the audience to get instant news. They are giving us different ways of connecting with people, with the audience, with the journalist. They are allowing the journalist to capture the news in the real time from different and many angles. They are putting the reporters in the heart of the actions. They are allowing to spread and share the journalists. They are allowing the journalists to spread and share their news stories in a different ways, in a fast ways, in a easier ways, in online format. They provide different narrative format. They reach really a variety of audiences. They are giving us different ways of live streaming coverage, like no other media can do. They distribute their materials in different format, MMS, SMS, different ways. Really, they are a news organization by themselves. Really, they are doing their own material, their own content by themselves. They are making audience empowered to create to create stories. They can allow the audience to get instant feedback. They allow the audience to share and interact with the journalist. You don't need a lot of money. You just need a mobile. You don't need to have a big place to be a journalist. It's a growing industry, and it will be flourish with the growing of video and audio technology. I think it will be more powerful. They are using different social media and mobile applications to spread their breaking news. They are posting the event as it's happening, while the news media are moving and carrying their stuff to cover the story. They can do it on the spot. They can do it without having to carry their machines and their materials. They are on the location. In the Arab world, we used mobile journalism. It's increasing industry. 63% of the Arabs are using smartphone to connect with the internet. We are having 170 million people who are using smartphone, and it will grow by 2020 to 327 million. After this Arabic Spring in 2011, a lot of media Arabic organizations showed some interest in mobile journalism. They asking some people to cover their news for themselves, like Al Jazeera, for example. They have their own channels, which depend mainly on citizens. They train some of their journalists. They agree that we have to take care of mobile users. They have their own special program just to broadcast materials which comes to them from mobile journalists. But some of them, they use this materials to incite people against their government. Some of them provide some citizens, like Al Jazeera, for example, provide some citizen with a smartphone, and they pay for them to cover the story, but specific story against the government. Mainly, most of Arab citizens use the mobile journalism to express their frustration or for entertaining more than just reporting stories. Some Arab countries start to change their laws to equalize between online journalists and the traditional journalists. And this is a big step. You can be a journalist if you are using the mobile or you are working in any media outlet. But in general, we don't have a lot of progress. Still, there is just few progress in this mission. And it does not represent a new wave in journalism in the Arab world till now. Most of Arab media organization does not adopt mobile journalist material to be published or to be broadcast on their platform. They are slower in this regard. But in general, they are realizing that something is changing and they have to think about depending or using the mobile journalism materials. Most of Arab media, I'm not, when I'm talking about Arab media, I think I'm talking about different areas. I'm not talking about the Arab themselves. I'm talking about the others. I forgot about Arab. Most media organizations just talk about depending on mobile journalists, but they are not taking real progress or real means to depend on them, which lead to reduce of the potential of mobile journalism. I met with some Arab media elites to talk about the potential and the challenges of mobile journalism. They said what? They said that Arab media are not ready to integrate mobile journalism into the real or the mainstream media because they are having financial problem. They cannot take care of this type of journalism. Most of Arab journalists are doing their job without having the adequate technological skills to use the mobile journalism. Also, there is some conflict, I think, in the Arab world and in different world between mobile journalists and the traditional journalists. They look each other in suspicion. Most of journalists, I think in the Arab world and the different world, they don't respect the materials and the product of the mobile journalism. They think that's lack a lot of criteria. So, and most of them they are preventing the media platform from running any materials which come to them from mobile journalists. Also, this elite media, they said what? They said that there is an absence of media literacy. Most audience, most users, they are using mobile just for fun. They are using just mobile just for their own personal purposes, not for public purposes. When they produce a stories, it's not complete stories. They are missing something. Okay, they are using mobile. They can do it. Everybody can do it. But if you can do it, this does not mean you know how to do it and why to do it. And this is the main mission of journalism. Okay, everybody can use the mobile, but for what and why and how to use it? So most of mobile journalists, they are missing the touch of the story. And also there is an unwillingness of the media organization to accept or to publish or to post or to adopt the material of mobile journalists. They also stated that there is a missing for the economic or the business or the revenue model for mobile journalism. Till now, I think in the Arab world and everywhere, nobody knows how to run this business, how to run mobile journalism. Nobody, I think, here and everywhere. What kind of model can we fund and sponsor mobile journalism? how long it will continue to this mobile journalism to run without having enough fund or enough sponsor. Nobody knows how can we integrate mobile journalism into the mainstream media. Nobody knows how can we benefit from this type of journalism financially. Nobody knows how to market this type of journalism. Nobody knows how to produce the best quality of mobile journalism reporting. They also mentioned that we have, this is applied on the Arab world. We have some problem with journalism in general and mobile journalism in particular. There is a lack of access to information. There is instability of the region. There is some restriction from the government on using the mobile. There is a lot of taboos, social and religious taboos. And also, there is a law problem. There is no law for mobile journalism which regulate mobile journalism. There is no code of ethics which handle or tackle the issue of mobile journalism. And also, nobody knows how can we protect the right of mobile journalists. And also, there is also different challenges which facing the mobile journalism. Each one, or most of us, when we are using the mobile, we are using the mobile for entertaining, not for reporting, not for journalistic stuff. And also, not everybody can buy a smartphone. In the Middle East or in Africa or the third world, it's a high price, it's costly. It's costly to buy a smartphone. The speed of connection also is not faster like different places, so it's difficult to use a mobile as a media. In the Arabic language also we have some problem with the font. It's not all the font it can be published, it can be used on the mobile. Some of Arab, and I think in different places, the old journalists, they are traditional one. They hate technology. It's difficult for them to accept or to deal with the new generation who are skillful in mobile. Also, there is something wrong with the concept of mobile journalism. Most of us, they consider it just copy and paste. It's not just copy and paste. It's a journalism by itself. It's a lot of angles, a lot of criteria, a lot of standard. It's not just shooting and publishing. It's not shooting and posting. It's something you have to have mission. You have to have a standard. You have to have criteria. You have to have ethics. You have to know how to do it. It's not just knowing how to create a video. It's not knowing how to create a video. It's bigger than this. Also, okay, if this mobile journalism is flourish, what is the product will be displayed on what? It will be displayed on a screen like this one. Can a screen like this one allow us to publish a real story, in-depth story, a real cavalry story? Can anybody read an investigative story on a screen like this one? It's very hard. It's very hard. This screen forces us to rewrite our stories in a way which fit with this small screen. How can we get enough and comprehensive idea from this screen? We have to have something bigger. I mean, we have also some problem. I hope it will be in different places also. I hope. Most of the students who are studying journalism, nobody teaches them what is the idea of mobile journalism. Nobody teaches them how to integrate mobile journalism with their education. Most of them are getting graduated without having enough skills of using the mobile. Most of them are getting their courses from faculty who do not have enough skills in technology. Most of their faculty hate technology. Most of all generation of journalism professors, difficult for them to deal with all of these issues. In general, I think in the Arab world and in different places, most organizations failed to integrate mobile journalism into their own newsrooms. Okay, they are having presence on the online, but still They are when they adopt some media organization, when they try to be digital, they created different unit for digital content. They have their own traditional, the old one, and they created new one. But they didn't think of integrating between the old and the new one. Each one of them is working separately. And this is not the way which you will be succeeded in using mobile journals. You have to have one entity which combines the old and the new one. But think about most of media organizations. They have different units, and they are fighting between each other, the old one and the new one. The old one does not respect these guys who have the skills, and the other one look to the traditional journalists as if they are old-fashioned, but they are not working with each other. There was a big demonstration in a Jordanian university from the student against their professor, against their courses, but nothing happened. Just they changing their department to a college. In the Arab world, we have 123 programs who are teaching media courses, but most of them, they don't teach the student technological courses, multimedia courses, mobile journalism courses. And if they will teach it from theoretical point of view, not practical point of view. The problem with the mobile journalism reporting, there is problem with the concept itself. Also, there is another issue with the advertisers. The advertisers, they are afraid if they publish their ads on the mobile platform, maybe they will get mixed up with different content. They are not willing to pay for this type of. Also, there is a pressure on some media organization because the technology is growing rapidly. It's difficult for them to keep up with this. And we have something strange. I read it in Egypt. No media organization can have different platforms. If they will work in print media, they cannot work in print media and broadcast and online. They cannot combine both of them together. How can I live in a digital way, in a digital environment, without integrating all of them? If you will work in printed media, just be in the print media. You cannot have this one and this one and this one. How can you live in a place like this one? You have to have all of them in the same place, with the same integration, so to be able to produce, mix it, and complete. In the end, we need some time. In the Arab world and the other world, we need some time to adopt this mobile news organization. To live with the mobile journalism, we need a new way of thinking. We need to think differently of telling the story. We need to develop specific courses for mobile journalism in our university. We need to learn and help our students to know the mobile journalism. We need to focus, if you will use the mobile, focus just on reporting more than just entertaining. If you will use your mobile as a journalist, report a good stuff material, respect the ethics of coverage, expand your focus, not just your personal focus. Find different ways than just social media. Most mobile journalism reporting, they are posting their materials on the social media. But it's not a real media organization. You have to have your own different platform. Apply the journalistic criteria. We need to learn more ethical and innovative, accurate report. Can you look to this picture? It started in 2000. It will die in 2018. It will die if this kind of journalism, it will die if it will not respect our ethics, our journalism ethics, our way of covering. Otherwise, it's just funny device to play with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And many of the comments that you made, I can attest to personally, because I was an editor at the national newspaper in Abu Dhabi until about 2014, and there was always this constant fight in the newsroom between, who's going to deal with posting things on the internet. Nobody wanted to do it. So there's definitely this tension. I want to ask a quick question, and then we'll invite Vladimir to come up for a broader conversation. I wonder how much of what you're describing is consumer preference versus official design. During the what's been termed the Arab Spring, although that term is not necessarily that accurate, but during that period of revolution, a lot of people were sharing information, tweeting information, that became the news. I mean, newspapers around the world were using that as kind of source material, and that changed the dynamic. In the past, social media and mobile journalism was kind of a tip that journalists would then use to follow up on. But after that period, it became the news itself and was reported as fact. But it also leads me to kind of this question that this challenge or the problem that was presented by the very people who were using this tool were also the ones protesting against the governments. And in many instances in the Arab world, the news organizations are managed and controlled by state governments. So I wondered, back to the question, how much of this kind of aversion to mobile or new technology in the newsroom is because consumers don't really want it, or because it's not wanted officially?
I'm depending on these guys as a witness, but it's not as a poll. I will not depend on them as a poll reporter. It's just the beginning of the story, but to provide a full story, a complete story, no, you cannot expect from these guys to do it like this one. So, is this kind of journalism will replace our own traditional journalism? Do you think this will replace our own criteria, our own journalism? It's just starting point. It's just giving a hint. It's just giving us some information, and we will build. They need us as journalists. I think so.
Okay, we'll come up and then we'll ask questions specifically about the panel if we'd like, or broaden it out. So is there a question on Elsayed's presentation?
Thank you again for another very interesting presentation. I'm getting increasingly despondent about the term and confused about the term journalism. I agree entirely with your critique of this concept of mobile journalism. I noticed in one of your slides the concept of citizen journalist. Now, this is, for me, an oxymoron. This is a contradiction in terms. What is journalism? The classic definition, it's a profession, it's an institution, it has a code of ethics. Somebody who just takes a photo and then uploads it quickly to YouTube, this is not journalism. These may be presenters of evidence or givers of evidence, and then the journalist then will say, well, here we have some evidence, and will then decide whether, or will try and put it into context. But this is not journalism, and we know from Charlie Hebdo also that this is not journalism. My specific question to you is, if we look at Al Jazeera, which is the most famous Arabic media in the West, tell us, if you could, how do they approach evidence from so-called mobile or citizen journalists?
I will go back to the first part of your. Imagine we will die as a journalist, as a traditional journalist. Who will help these guys to get a real news? Just a social media? Imagine we are not ever anymore. They will cry because they didn't fund us as a newspaper. Think about it. You have to fund us. You have to help us. Otherwise, you will lose something big for you, something very beneficial for you. I will leave you alone with the social media. They will take care of you. They will publish a lot of fake news. They will make your life miserable. Think of us. Think of us. We are suffering like the Guardian, who is begging for $1. Help these guys. Otherwise, you will lose something. Al Jazeera is playing, I'm Egyptian. I'm not from Qatar. They are playing a very negative role in the Arab world. They are paying money for people just to spy on different government, different people. They are very professional. They are good. They are very skillful. But their way of covering the way is very biased. It's very biased. They are using money. They are providing smartphone for people, for everyone, just to spy and send it. And it's not a real coverage, real and accurate coverage. This is my opinion. They are professional, but they are not objective.
Maybe I could just interject to play the devil's advocate. In situations like the conflict in Syria, for instance, in many cases, citizen journalism was the only source for traditional mainstream Western journalism. So is there a role that can be beneficial? I mean, we've talked a lot about how it's not beneficial, but can it be?
In some cases like Syria, but in some cases like this one, you can, but also it needs this journalistic touch. You are just using your mobile to cover some incident here or there, but still you are not giving me the whole picture. You need us.
Yeah, it goes back to your point that verification is quite difficult. Yeah, there's questions in the back.
Yeah, there is a guy here.
Yeah. Thank you. This is very interesting. I'm from Northwestern University in Doha, and so we have somewhat similar media markets. And as you went through your list of issues for mobile media, the two that jumped out to me were, one, there's serious political and legal constraints in both of our countries, but also economic ones. The main issue in Doha, I would say, is that virtually all media are heavily state subsidized. They have absolutely no incentive to innovate on anything. And Al Jazeera, of course, is an excellent news organization that does no domestic coverage. So when you look at these developmental issues for the UAE, which ones matter most to you? The legal ones, the legal constraints, or the economic constraints?
Both of them are rich countries. They don't have any problem with the financial issues. They can fund a lot of, both of them, they don't have any issue with this one. But the way of coverage, the way of handling the issue is totally different. It's based on their own interest.
But they're rich countries, and these are rich publications. And
And
they can
also,
certainly afford to make these investments.
He also can give you some idea about the national newspaper. It's well-produced newspaper. They have money to produce a very, very powerful newspaper. You can.
Yeah, I mean, I would answer it from personal experience that it's a question that the news organizations there are still grappling with. I mean, I left the organization in 2013, 2014, and many of the journalists that had been brought over, from the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times had already started kind of to leave. The resources weren't necessarily there anymore, and you got the sense, this is certainly not an official one, but as a journalist, you got the sense that the priority of using this high quality tool of reporting was no longer necessarily the top priority of the funders. And so economically, it's a good question. I think it leads into my next question. I think, what is the goal of these types of tools, whether it's a newspaper that's in the Arab world, or spending lots of money on a VR flashy tool on your New York Times app so you can pretend you're an ice skater at the 2018 Olympics? What's the objective of high quality digital, impactful, to use that pseudo-sophisticated word I mentioned, storytelling? And I'm not sure if I'm stealing your question so much as
No, not at all.
as diverting it. But maybe to both of you, I think that's...
The issue is helping your society. We have different society. You have your own values. You have your own political system. We have different... What is the end? The end. Are you helping your people? Are you against your people? If you are helping your people, have your own system. Don't force your own way of thinking and your way of political ideas on me. I'm doing my business. I'm helping my people. I have the rich people. They are rich. They are doing a good journalism. In the end, they are helping their people. Nothing wrong with this one.
Perhaps this is not my area to speak in, but after all, I am a professor of media, so I do have an opinion, and I have an opinion that is radically different. I couldn't disagree more with you when it comes down to the understanding of what citizen journalism is. We've had citizen journalism since the 70s and 60s. Actually, A lot of societies have been moved out of some dire situation when actually citizens organized and actually produced like radio broadcasts and set up radio stations as citizen journalists. So not only am I very critical of all the journalism professors in the field, but I want to give students here an optimistic mission. I want to encourage you to disobey your professors of journalism. A lot of them, what's happening there is that they are referring to this golden age of journalism, which nobody is ready to tell me when that was. When was that time when we didn't have fake news? Also, they're reacting to something that us old people usually react to. We always see, the golden age is way better than what we're living right now. I'm also a professor of. I'm trying to sort of get into new technologies, new media, particularly artificial intelligence. You ain't seen nothing yet. If we believe that these are profound changes and these are the challenges to journalism, what you will experience next 10, 15, 20 years, those are going to be profound changes. When data gets free, now I'm going to talk crazy here. Data is going to get free. Information is going to be free, but information is going to get free from the people. Information itself is going to become free and independent of the people. In that era, all these traditional ideas of what journalism is, who is a journalist, and how we go about journalism are going to become kind of irrelevant. So I think it's best that we sort of embrace the idea of what is coming, because we have no way of stopping it, and try to at least engage in that discussion and not let Facebooks and Googles and Amazons of the world make those decisions for us. Because if we're lagging in our technological understanding, and if we're digitally illiterate, we will not be taking part in that discussion. And that's the discussion, the crucial discussion, that we are going to be left behind, especially if your journalism professors who are really not up on this stuff, afraid to say.
Are my idea applicable in your country? Meaning, are the media organization benefiting from mobile journalists or not in your countries? And I will try to comment on we are very skillful in technology, but having the skills of technology without having these values and the criteria, nothing. Okay, everybody's good in technology, but not everybody can cover the story as it should be. Why we are teaching this kind of journalism? Why we are getting great degrees in this one? It's a profession by itself. It's not a technology. There is some mind. If you know something without knowing how to use it and why to use it, nothing. Okay, be good in technology, but you have to know your professions.
Just briefly, the opening panel from this morning at 9 o'clock had examples of technology going autonomously there and producing thousands of stories. And this has been here for a couple of years. Now just imagine, just close your eyes and imagine 10, 15, 20 years from now. We are just refusing to do that. We're clinging on to the old ideas of the ideal age of journalism and wanting to bring it back. That stuff is gone.
We are suffering from fake news right now.
Yep.
We are suffering from the social media back right now. Something wrong with the social media. Everybody is suffering right now. We were very lucky with having social media during the past 5 years. We end with what? A lot of rumors, a lot of separation, a lot of fake news. We have to have something. We have to teach the student how to use this technology. Okay, use this technology, but for ethical purposes.
I think it's interesting, and we're going to go to the question here in the back, but I think it's interesting that the tension that you described in Charlie Hebdo and the type of how you tell the story, and it's all based on interpretation, also applies to technology. So I think that's an interesting parallel. Yeah, in the back.
Speaking of parallels, my name is Walid Al-Saqqaf. I'm also from the Middle East. I'm originally from Yemen, but I've moved to Sweden many years ago. And one thing I have noticed over the years that it's not necessarily the tools that are the problem or the devices. It's more of the mindset and the culture. And the Middle East is one of these parts of the world where there is a very strong top-down approach in education. and they can never even consider thinking or opposing their professor because they might not find themselves on the list of students the next day. So the idea is that maybe I mean, we've talked about the problems a lot. We've talked about the difficulties, but we're not addressing solutions or proposing ideas that might take us to the next level. What if the notion of top-down in the educational system and normative approach that's been used now is broken? Who is it that can break this? Is it policymakers? Is it governments? Is it rectors? Let us here a bit shed light on that and know how to break this cycle, because otherwise we're repeating the same thing. And I recall this exact same dialogue happening many years back.
I wouldn't know where to take that one. I just would not know where to take. This is again, I think you're referring to some problems that I will probably best label as digital literacy. I think we've created a problem for which we don't currently have an answer. There are a couple of sort of venues that we might want to explore, but that pretty much are guesses at this moment. I think we're also impatient to see what this is going to result in. I think we have to accept, I was speaking about this in an earlier panel, that we're just in an early stage of technology sort of being, taking its first step and falling down. And we know the baby steps eventually result in a slow but steady walk. So I just think we might need to be patient with the new technologies and what they're doing. But I just want to push back even again against last night, the idea of like, this is the age of fake news. And this coming from the journalist of Voice of America, like I mean, really? I mean, they find it rich, an entity sponsored by the American Congress, paid for and accountable to them, will point fingers at other news media and calling them biased. Yeah.
I think spreading the technology with a purpose, not just for the sake of technology, with a purpose. You have to use it for a purpose, It's not just America. I saw yesterday a whole program about fake news in Nigeria and Kenya and everywhere. They are suffering. It's not American issue. It's everywhere issue. Social media are killing a lot of people. We have to educate people how to use it, and we have to educate our students how to combine between our norms, our tradition, our traditional tradition with the technology, not separation between them. Thank you.
I'm Piotr Pacewicz from Poland. Well, I'm a little bit confused, I have to say. I think we all are confused a little bit, because there are two separate questions. One question is about civic journalism, this spontaneous activity. I have the experience of the 80s in Poland when I was involved in the clandestine newspaper. It was completely spontaneous, civic journalism. Financed by the citizens, etc., etc. Then it became the Gazeta Wyborcza, the famous newspaper of the Polish transformation. Yes. So in general, I am also very skeptical about professors of journalism. I remember that it was a different situation, maybe, but we didn't accept, or we didn't want to have students of journalism at Gazeta Wyborcza from the beginning. But, well, it was a specific situation. But this is one side of the picture. And the other side is the question of the journalistic values and the ethos and all that stuff, yes? Because this perspective of the total technological revolution brings this question of this ethos, and part of this ethos, and again to you, Mr. Bratic, is the question of that journalists has to be somehow, by definition, critical toward the government. That's our goal. That's our That's the value we have to follow, yes? We have to be critical. So how to make all this together and to build a optimistic prospect for the future, I don't know.
We didn't hear from the new generation. What about their ideas? What about your feedback about what did they say? Say something. Do you agree with us? Say something. Are we teaching you journalism as it should be? Is there something wrong with?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult because of course there are new media like social media and all those apps, and there's a lot of new technology, and I can agree that what Vladimir said, that sometimes you have to make some steps and then fall down and then step up again and grow. But I also understand your vision because there's a lot of difficulties because we don't know the new media, and I think it's very important to still stay a little bit with the old media to learn and then make them to work together to make something new, and don't try to go too fast, because it's all so very new, and it all went so fast. So yeah, that's a little bit what I think. You have to combine the two. And maybe I also think because you say that the mobile journalism is dying in your country, and maybe it's something I can understand. But I also think maybe it's because your newspaper is doing it so well. I think because you say that, and I also said that you have good news over there. But maybe the people who live in the Arab countries don't they don't need the right now. They don't have the need right now to work with new media, but maybe if we could work a little bit better with it, there will be some ask for new media over there.
What
I
about
think.
your country? Are the media organization here allow you to broadcast or to publish your own story? You are just a citizen journalist. You are using your mobile.
Yes,
you created
yes, yeah.
your story. Can you publish it? Can you publish it in a respected media? Are they accepted something from you to be published? It's not Arab issue.
No, but that's why I mean it's important to work together, because I don't think that now I'm just a student. I don't work for a paper, and I don't think that everything I throw now on the media is good journalistic work. But if you send it to like a newspaper or something, I think they can make something more of it.
So we're actually at time right now. So I would just ask the speakers if you want to sum up in 30 seconds, and then.
I'm just gonna go wild. To kind of answer your question, so sort of the ethics, the existence of ethics. I think we'll soon come to a place, and I'm thinking as I'm speaking, so it's very fresh, that we will not look at we will not look for the journalists to be checking on the government, to be the watchdogs. I think the data will do that. I think the separation from data from the journalists is the next step. The data is going to take over, and the computation of data will take on those roles. How we apply to set up the algorithm for what purpose will resolve the problem that you are bringing.
Data mining. So they need mind. It's not just the data. They need mind to play with the data, to create different story, different angles. The data is everywhere, for you, for me. But how can you create stories from the data? You need minds. You need people with some skills.
Well, perhaps this conversation will continue at lunch. I want to thank both of you for fantastic presentations and conversation, and thanks to all of you. Enjoy the rest of your day.